Hi, it's Marieta. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this video, I want to talk about my story. I want to share my story with you guys, how I went from struggling immigrant to student, international student, into E2 investor, and eventually green card holder via entrepreneurship. And so if you're someone who has aspiration to start business in US, create a profitable company, and then eventually apply for your green card and truly live your American dream, you definitely want to stick around. Coming up. Alright guys, so if you are new here, welcome. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you are notified when I release new content. And in this specific video, which is going to be part 1, I want to talk about my story, how I went from struggling immigrant to international student, and I'm going to break down everything you need to know, how I made it happen from the immigration point of view, as well as personal story, how I was able to become a student, how I was able to study at one of the best law schools in the country. In the second video, which will be follow-up part, number 2, I will break down how I went from a student to actually E2 investor. And in the third follow-up video, I will talk about how I went from E2 investor to a green card holder via entrepreneurship. So let's get started. I still remember the day when I landed in Chicago. It was back in 2007, and I remember that I was back then this fresh law school graduate back in my country, Slovakia, and I had this giant dream. My dream was to become a lawyer in United States, and I had no idea how can I achieve this, and all I had back then was temporary 4-month visa. Specifically, I was on a J1 visa, which is the typical summer work and travel visa. Many international students are actually traveling to United States under this visa, which allowed me to basically work for about 4 months, and then I had to quickly realize how can I legalize my stay. So that was a challenge number 1. I was facing the challenge of figure out how can I change my status from J1 and stay in United States legally. So what I did, I actually enrolled to school that is called ESL, English as a Second Language School. And this school basically was kind of affordable, allowed me to study English in the United States. And as I was studying, I was also preparing for the admission test, so I was eventually able to study law. So what I did, I literally changed the status from J1 to F1, and you probably heard this before. Many actually people do that. They change the status. Once you are within the United States, you can change your status to different visa. So that's exactly what I did. I changed my status, and then I was preparing to be accepted by actual law school, because back then, like I said, I was fresh law school graduate. However, I was a law school grad from different country, different jurisdiction, and very quickly I realized that I have to go back to school. And so I prepared myself. I think I took the TOEFL exam, LSAT, and so on, and I was by surprise accepted by Northwestern University School of Law in Chicago, which was my dream school. And at that point I was super excited, but also a bit terrified, because the school system in the United States is rather expensive, especially if you are someone who is aiming to be accepted by top university. You should expect to pay multiple 5 figures a year. So that was the reality. Once I graduated from Northwestern University, I decided to move to New York. And the reason was that I was planning on to find a job. I was basically looking for a job, and New York back then seemed like the best strategy. So I moved to New York, and I was preparing for the bar exam, right? You have to pass the bar exam in the United States to be a licensed attorney, to practice law. So that's exactly what I did. I studied for the bar, and obviously, maybe if you are an attorney, you probably know what I'm talking about. I literally studied 12 hours a day for a couple of weeks, actually I would even say months. And after I was finally I was able to pass the bar and I became licensed attorney, guess what happened? I was not able to find H-1B visa sponsor. And this is exactly the path, the blueprint most of international students are following. They go to school, they graduate. In my case, I obtained the license. And then they look for a sponsor. They look for H-1B visa sponsor, right? And then once they find the sponsor, then they basically change their status from F1 or OPT to the work visa. Well, that didn't happen. In my case, I was not able to find the H-1B visa sponsor. And literally, even though I sent out hundreds of resumes, I was networking like crazy, it just wasn't happening for me. And this was back in 2010 when the market was full of unemployed lawyers, and it was right after the economic crisis and the real estate bubble bursted. So I had difficult time to actually find someone to sponsor me on H-1B. And right before my status was about to expire as OPT, I found a lawyer, and this lawyer was willing to sponsor me on H-1B visa. So what we did, actually, we filed for H-1B, we changed the status, and actually I don't remember, I don't think we changed the status, I think we did the consular processing. So we did that. However, the USCIS requested evidence, additional evidence, and the moment they requested additional evidence, I approached this lawyer and I couldn't find him. The guy vanished. So I was forced to basically leave the country because I didn't want to overstay, and my case was actually abandoned and I had to leave the country. And that was the end of this chapter, because in the second video I will share with you what I did and how I was able to take care of my status despite this difficulty. That you can understand, I was licensed attorney, ready to practice law, but I couldn't stay in the United States legally because I didn't have H-1B visa sponsor. And so if you want to learn more about the next chapter, what was going on in my life, definitely stay tuned for the next video. And again, if you want to actually learn more how you can start your business in the United States, how you can get your green card through entrepreneurship, I highly recommend you check out free webinar training below this video. And if you want to talk to me, you can book a call. The link is also going to be below the video. And stay tuned for the next video where I will talk about how I went from struggling student lawyer to E2 visa investor. See you soon.